Well, things are getting worse for Jimmy Kimmel as his latest controversy with Disney Plus and Disney turned into a major backfire that's actually left Hollywood scrambling right now. So, as you all know, Disney Plus just lost 1.7 million subscribers in 1 week, and a chunk of the media rushed to go and said it happened because of Jimmy Kimmel. Okay, so they framed the cancellation as the reaction to Jimmy Kimmel being briefly off the air, like households were devastated by his absence. Okay, so that particular reading ignores the timing of the price hike, ignores what people actually watch, and turns Jimmy Kimmel into a convenient headline once again. So the facts also point to the cost and value as the drivers, not Jimmy Kimmel, apparently. So an Engadget piece summarized by a Blue Sky post claiming that Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN shed 1.7 million paid accounts in the week after Disney suspended Jimmy Kimmel. Okay, so the same week the company rolled out, higher streaming prices, yet the headline itself emphasizes stayed glued to Jimmy Kimmel. So when the dates and incentives are put side by side, a price change is the cleaner explanation. The absence of return or return of Jimmy Kimmel, doesn't align with how people cancel subscription services. Okay, so basically, this is just nothing but smoke. If a star's pool is the engine viewing data, should be able to confirm it. What we actually have here are audience declines for the late night program after a short-term bump. Okay, so a 64% drop overall and a 73% decline in the key ad demo, which doesn't support the idea that masses canceled to back Jimmy Kimmel. Now, the scale being credited to Jimmy Kimmel doesn't match the behavior in the ratings themselves. All right, so there's also another issue: how the cancellations were counted. You see, the 1.7 million number combines Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN. A bundled household that cancels all three can be logged in 3 times. So that inflates a headline without telling us the true number of unique households. Now, honestly, the sourcing chain was thin, and aggregation tied to a social post from a small newsletter without methodology that could answer basic questions about counting rules, regions, or even the bundle handling. Okay, so the price move is the simplest trigger to understand, and families already weighing monthly costs tend to go ahead and cut a service that they rarely once the bill rises. Screenshots of cancellation receipts on social media make noise, but don't prove motive or even prior usage. Okay, so it's more consistent with the budget choice finally being made when the cost line went up, not with any deep connection to a single late night personality. Okay, so late night television has been sliding for years, where viewers move to clips, podcasts, and on-demand services that they can watch on their own schedule. Now, the monologue plus desk bit formula is not holding any attention the way it did a decade ago. Now, when a whole category is trending downward, the leverage of any one show is actually limited. Subscription decisions follow price and perceived value first. Okay, so local TV and affiliate economics matter as well. Stations pay for programming based on, expected ad performance, and that depends on consistent audience delivery. If a guest host a rerun or news block does as well or better in the same slot, the network loses negotiating leverage. Okay, so basically, the buyers look at numbers across weeks and quarters, not social chatter. That's what decides where the dollars go. Okay, now another claim out there is said that, households canceled because the network went on ahead and just paused Jimmy Kimmel and then brought him back quietly. That also skips over the cleanest factor. You see, after the price hike, people canceled, and the return of Jimmy Kimmel didn't reverse it. Well, because the product itself still was overpriced. Now, if price is the pain point, a programming tweak doesn't change the calculation itself. And that's something that a lot of people refuse to accept. But even the scope questions didn't even get answered. Were the cancellations domestic only or global? Were they counted by account or by individual product lines? And how many were bundles? You see, a story that pins a week of churn on Jimmy Kimmel while it ignores timing, pricing, and geography is actually incomplete. Now, when Jimmy Kimmel returned, there wasn't evidence of a subscriber rebound tied to Jimmy Kimmel either. Okay, so basically, the content slate is the long pole in the tent. Now, if a library doesn't, deliver a fresh series that people actually plan to watch next week, the perceived value collapses fast. Okay, so if the near-term pipeline can't justify a higher bill, well, cancellations aren't even a surprise anymore. They're just the rational outcome, basically. That pattern has shown up across multiple platforms during tighter months for household budgets. Okay, so in other words, exactly how much can people afford it? And if it's worth it as well. But online defense is not the same thing as real consumption. Users can praise a brand over or a personality on social platforms and still skip the program at night. Ad buyers spend, against measurable viewing and retention, not sentiment posts. Okay, so that's where the narrative runs into a wall. Now, the numbers themselves that move money don't back the headline story itself. Okay, so basically, the fast way to settle this would be transparent data. Now, break out unique households, separate bundle attention from standalone accounts, disclose regions, and list primary cancellation reasons, in a standard template. Without that, single cause headlines are guesswork with the selective details attached. So yeah, basically the price change is the only concrete variable clearly pinned to that week, and Disney Plus is in trouble. But eventually, the company has to go ahead and reconcile costs with outcomes. Now, if a time slot isn't delivering ad value and the brand linked to it doesn't influence subscriber behavior, well, the business case itself actually erodes. Leaner schedules and lower production costs are also how companies react when budgets get tight. Now, that's what investors and affiliates watch when contracts come up. Okay, so basically, supporters online argue that the network needed Jimmy Kimmel on air as a matter of principle, but the trend actually shows little engagement in the viewing lane that actually matters. You see, if the audience doesn't show up, Building corporate decisions around Jimmy Kimmel sets expectations that the numbers won't meet. Now, principle doesn't balance a budget at all. Okay, so basically, the cancellation week showed how households act when money and time collide. You see, people cut the service and move on, regardless of headlines featuring Jimmy Kimmel. Now, the simplest read holds. Price and content drove the behavior, and repeating Jimmy Kimmel in the news cycle doesn't even, change that core. Okay, that doesn't change that core calculation. But in other words, households love because the bill went up, perceived value went down, and the media narrative tried to turn the complex week into a story about Jimmy Kimmel. Now, avoiding the real causes will slow any recovery, and right about now, since this is the case, things are not going well for Jimmy Kimmel, no matter how you put it. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Be sure to smash the like button, share the video for a while across social media. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell for future uploads, notifications, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace.